So in the last 36 or so hours, the Chiefs signed a veteran receiver, traded for a defensive end as well as a tight end, and got rid of a couple fan-favorite players in the process. And in this video, I'll break all that down as we take an in-depth look at the Chiefs' initial 53-man roster. So let's talk about it. But first, how about those? All right, there was a lot that happened both today and yesterday. So let's talk yesterday first, because there was a couple of big things worth talking about. The Chiefs were actively getting the roster down from 91. Jason Chu-Goderick didn't count against the 90-man roster due to KC placing the international exemption on him, all the way down to 53 players. But again, let's talk about these two big moves yesterday. Everyone knows this by now, but wide receiver JuJu Smith-Schuster is back on a one-year vet min deal. It's around $1.2 million after the Patriots released him just 1 year into the three-year deal he signed last offseason. JuJu spoke with the media today, saying that after getting released by the Patriots, he explored his options and coming to KC was the best spot for him. He's already familiar with the teammates and the coaching staff, the system, and didn't want to go learn a completely new system and playbook, though it's worth noting that, yes, he's back with the same team that he was with in 2022. He's still not sure, however, if he's going to play in the season opener against the Ravens. He's still got to get reacquainted with the playbook as things do change from year to year. He does feel ready to go, though. His body is good. He's got a lot left in the tank. And this year's team looks way different, so he's not sure what his production is going to look like at the end of the year. In 2022, he had almost 1,000 yards. It probably won't look like that, but he's not worried about that. He just wants to plug in where he's able and help contribute. He did sound excited to be back in Andy Reid's offense, noting that there's a big difference between KC and the Steelers and the Patriots, with those teams being more defensive-minded. There's a lot more opportunities for receivers to thrive in Andy's scheme, with JuJu referring to Big Red as a mastermind. He's looking forward to teaming up with the rest of the receiver room, saying that they complement each other very well. Then, late last night, the Chiefs got some additional edge help after it was reported they traded a 7th-round pick to the Cardinals for linebacker Cameron Thomas. Not to be mistaken for Cam Thomas, okay? White guy. Cameron Thomas is pasty as me. He was a 3rd-round pick back in 2022, appearing in all 17 games his rookie season and 15 last year. And over those 2 seasons, he racked up 40 tackles, 3 sacks, and 1 fumble recovery. He's listed at linebacker, but is really utilized as an edge rusher. That's how the Chiefs are going to use him, as a defensive end, most likely with his hand on the ground, and he even has the ability to kick inside at times. He played both defensive end and defensive tackle in college. So the Chiefs are getting a rotational piece that boasts nearly a 10% pressure rate. That's a quality rotational piece, if you ask me. He can rush the passer and also hold up solid against the run. The Chiefs traded for him, in my opinion, because FAU didn't show enough during the preseason. He played so many snaps and really struggled to flash against 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stringers in these games. And with FAU being slower to develop than ideal, and Charles Omenihu starting the season out on the PUP list, this was a great get for KC, especially for a 7th-round pick. They also made another move today as we were waiting for all these cutdowns to happen. They made another trade. Brett Veach, always moving, always working. Tom Pelissero reported that the Chiefs traded a late-round conditional pick to the Cowboys for tight end Peyton Hendershot. That late-round pick is believed to be a conditional 2026 7th-rounder, according to Diana Rossini of The Athletic. And this move comes after the Chiefs actually waived tight end Irv Smith Jr., or rather released him. He's had more than 4 years experience in the NFL. And Hendershot joins a tight end room that now features Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, and rookie Jared Wiley. Hendershot signed with the Cowboys as a UDFA in 2022, catching 11 passes for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns his rookie season, but had a bit of a down year last season. He went into camp last year competing for a significant role, but fell behind Jake Ferguson and Luke Schoonmaker on the depth chart, and Dallas decided to move on from the 3rd-year tight end after camp this year. And while he doesn't have a ton of production as a tight end in his career, he does bring some value on special teams. He's played over 400 special team snaps with the Cowboys over the last 2 years. And something else to note is that he had the 9th highest RAS for tight ends in the 2022 draft class with an 8.4 out of 10. So he's a bit smaller, but a super athletic guy, 6'3", 246. But again, he tested extremely well in terms of quickness and agility. So we'll get more into the tight end room here a bit later, but it's just worth noting that Irv Smith Jr. must not have been cutting it, and now Peyton Hendershot is a guy that could be seeing the field a bit more, probably as a blocking tight end, catching passes from time to time, and then playing a lot of special teams. And from here, I got to get into some of the most surprising players released today, as well as a breakdown, position group by position group of the 53-man roster. But before I do, I wanted to let you all know that I'm giving away 2 free tickets to the Chiefs home opener against the Ravens on September 5th, courtesy of my friends at Autograph, who are also the sponsor of today's video. I'll explain exactly how you can get your chance to win these in a moment, but first, if you didn't know, Autograph is the best app to feed your Chiefs fandom, from A+ Chiefs merch and memorabilia to rewards, leaderboards, and even no-fee tickets to Arrowhead. You can get all your Chiefs news right here in one place, so I like that a lot, whether it's articles from multiple sites that cover the Chiefs to audio podcasts or videos from friends in the space like RGR, among others, even tweets or posts from Twitter/X. It's all there in one place. They've made it fun for the community too. You can get ranked and level up and see how you stack up across other fans of your team on Autograph's leaderboards. Leveling up even unlocks unique rewards such as discounted tickets, signed memorabilia, and more. And that is how you are going to get your chance to win these tickets, by earning 25 coins in the app. It's super easy to do, trust me. You can earn coins by reading an article, watching a video, and or listening to a podcast. Now, the offer will be available to the Chiefs community members who have joined Autograph previously using my code HBTChiefs, or that join Autograph using code HBTChiefs through this promotion. So if you haven't already, make sure to download the Autograph app now and start earning those coins. Then, once you hit 25, the ticket offer will be available to HBT Chiefs users in the Chiefs community via the rewards tab for the duration of the offer window. The window, by the way, starts today, August 27th, and will end at 12 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesday, September 3rd. From there, the winner will be selected immediately after this closes, and the Autograph rewards team will reach out to the winner via email to let them know they've won and transfer the free tickets. Everyone else will also see the username of who won in the rewards tab, so there's no confusion. So again, for your chance to win, just make sure to use my code HBTChiefs when you download the app by searching your preferred app store or clicking the link in the description down below. All right, now let's get into some of the sort of surprising players released. At the end of the day, there were no huge surprises, but some notable players for sure. For starters, Toney is done. His era is over in Kansas City after they released him today. He's now going to hit waivers, and if a team claims him, they will take on his $2.53 million salary for 2024. But if he clears waivers and signs with the team after that, the team that signs him will be off the hook, and the Chiefs are going to be responsible for that $2.5 million. I think once the team signed JuJu Smith-Schuster yesterday, yeah, we did see the writing on the wall for Toney, but also for Justyn Ross. Toney just couldn't get healthy. He was working with the threes at preseason games. Like, what are we doing here with Toney? I wish him the best. You know, he had his moments in the 2022 season. He had the punt return in the Super Bowl, the longest punt return in Super Bowl history. So thank you for Toney, but no thank you. We got to move on. All due respect, but injury problems, inconsistent play, off the field drama, the Instagram rants, the team is finally opting to move on. And they're also moving on from 2 other fan favorites, though they could still be brought back onto the practice squad should they clear waivers, with those being Justyn Ross and Omenihu. Nico had an outside shot to make it, considering how he could be used in the return game, plus the fact that special teams coordinator Dave Toub said he was going to be pounding the table for Nico to make this roster. But when you see the 7 that the Chiefs went with, it's clear, in my opinion, why Nico didn't make it. As for Ross, the hype train died down a little bit heading into his 3rd season. The talent's there, but he's really just a 50-50 jump ball guy down the sideline with a limited route tree, struggles to create separation at the NFL level, and then even in the last preseason game, he didn't even know where to line up, and Andy Reid frustratingly had to call a timeout. And this showcased exactly why Mahomes and Andy Reid can't trust him to be dependable at this point in time. And with that, the Ross experiment has officially come to an end. Now, to many people's surprise, the team elected to hang on to Sky Moore, who had his own battles with inconsistency. But that's not really a surprise. The team has showed you all along the way, from training camp when he was in for injuries, when Justin Watson was injured, Sky Moore was the next man up. When Hollywood Brown got injured in the first preseason game, Sky Moore was the next man up because Justin Watson was out. And then, yes, he suited up in the 3rd preseason game, but didn't play any snaps on offense and just returned a couple of kicks. And I think Sky Moore could very well be your kick returner in some capacity and a depth piece on the offense. I get it. People wanted Ross over Moore, but the team has showed us all along the way that they wanted more. That's why I've had him on basically every 53-man roster so far, and why he makes the final initial 53-man roster. And from here, I do want to go position group by position group and kind of talk about it here. But before I do, got to point out the difference between a player getting waived and a player getting released. If a player has less than 4 years of experience in the NFL, they have to be waived and can be claimed by another team on the waiver wire before becoming an unrestricted free agent if they don't. So if the Chiefs waive a player, all 31 other teams have to basically pass up on this player before they can end up on the Chiefs practice squad. Then, if they have more than 4 years in the league, they have to be released and immediately become a free agent, allowing them to sign with any team they choose instead of having to clear waivers. Several of the players the Chiefs waived today are probably hopeful practice squad candidates, as well as the guys that they released. And with that, here we go. Let's look at the 53-man roster and how it stands right now. It's going to change a bunch, maybe even before the season starts. But for right now, here we go. You have 2 quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Carson Wentz. Zero surprise here, and that means they waived Chris Oladokun. He'll probably be the practice squad QB, and Ian Book. Then you have 2 running backs, Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It seems like his mental health stuff and the cyclic vomiting syndrome is okay enough in the Chiefs' eyes for Clyde Edwards-Helaire to stay on the roster. Makes sense. Depth piece running back, vet min deal. Keep him if he's going to be healthy. I dig it, but I was scared for a second until I saw the very next line that the Chiefs are going to roll with Carson Steele as the fullback. I would have bet a ton of money that Carson Steele made the roster a real preseason standout, and he definitely earned his way onto the roster. Meanwhile, the Chiefs opted to waive Amani Bailey, Keontae Ingram, Deneric Prince, and Louis Rees-Zammit. Deneric Prince was a guy I thought could make the 53, but he did not make really any splashes outside of one 40-yard run in preseason. And I think really he didn't impress enough, in my opinion, for any team to claim him off of waivers. I think he can very realistically get onto the practice squad. Louis Rees-Zammit needs the practice squad for a year. I mean, he's got to continue learning NFL. He's been a rugby guy his whole life. He's had a lifelong goal of playing in the NFL. It's a great story, but he just needs more time. So will he end up on the Chiefs practice squad? We will have to see, because as you see here in a minute, an offensive lineman that the Chiefs placed that international pathway player exemption on, he also got waived. And with the exemption on him, I think that means Jason Chu-Godric, spoiler alert, is going to be the Chiefs' 17th man on the practice squad. So if they want LRZ on it, I think he's going to have to be one of the 16 players, but the rules are a bit cloudy to say the least. Anyway, moving on from the running back room, big shout out to Carson Steele. He's a fullback on the roster, but I think he's going to be used in a hybrid role as a running back at times, fullback at others. I can't wait to see kind of what they cook up for him. Okay, 4 tight ends is what the Chiefs ended up rolling with. A bit of a surprise until you realize that they traded for Peyton Hendershot. And those 4 tight ends are going to be Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, Jared Wiley, and Peyton Hendershot. That means they waived Baylor Cupp and Jorquarius Spivey and released the veteran Irv Smith Jr. Hopefully Irv Smith Jr. makes it to the practice squad. I think that would be an ideal place for him, at least in the Chiefs' eyes. Then for the wide receiver room, let's get into this. You got Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, JuJu Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, and Sky Moore. And that is why I'm telling you it's not a big surprise that Nico Remigio did not make the roster. If Mecole Hardman is the team's dedicated punt returner, you want to look at his overall value, and I think he's more important on offense just from a depth piece gadget guy than Nico Remigio. Mecole Hardman, you know what you have in him. I saw a comment recently that said, well, Mecole Hardman has never had a 700-yard season in the NFL. Who cares? He's going to be like wide receiver 6, and he's had like multiple 500-plus yard seasons in the NFL. You know his shortcomings, his routes. Like, I get the weaknesses of Mecole Hardman, but he's super fast, can be used to stretch the field with Hollywood out, a gadget guy, and then he can return both punts and kicks. So Mecole Hardman made complete sense. We've already talked about the Sky Moore thing. He was a lock, and that means they waived Cornell Powell, Nico Remigio, Justyn Ross, Kadarius Toney, Phillip Brooks, Kyle Sheets, and Montrell Washington. Hopefully Montrell Washington can make it onto the practice squad. He was there last year and was called up in several games when injuries hit the room. He's a trustworthy returner for sure. Next up for the offensive line room, we actually do have a little bit of a shakeup here, and it's a pleasantly surprising one, to say the least. They went with 10 offensive linemen: left tackle Kingsley Suamataia, left guard Joe Toney, center Creed Humphrey, right guard Trey Smith, and right tackle Jawan Taylor. So those are your 5 starters. Then for the next 5 along the line, you have offensive tackle Wanye Morris, offensive lineman Mike Caliendo, offensive lineman Hunter Norzad, and then offensive guard CJ Hansen, and offensive tackle Ethan Driscoll, and that's kind of the pleasant surprise. The UDFA Ethan Driscoll, who was showing some pretty good promise in preseason, actually made the 53-man roster over the longtime offensive tackle Lucas Niang. They also waived Jason Chu-Godric, offensive guard Nick Torres, and offensive lineman Griffin McDowell. So no real surprises on the O-line outside of Ethan Driscoll in and Lucas Niang out. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on that. I'm super excited for Ethan Driscoll, UDFA, that beat out a long-time, semi-long-time veteran in Lucas Niang. He was on the last year of his deal, but didn't look that good in preseason, if I'm going to be honest. So that's 26 on offense, which means 24 on the defensive side of the ball for now, and that's going to be 9 defensive linemen. We're looking at 4 defensive tackles first. Chris Jones, Turk Wharton, Mike Pennell, and Derek Nottie. So they waived defensive tackle Neil Farrell Jr. That's a guy they traded for from the Raiders last year. Maybe he'll be a practice squad guy. I don't know. They also waived UDFA defensive tackle Fabian Lovett, Alex Gubner as well. And then they released defensive tackle Matt Dickerson. He's a real practice squad candidate. Hopefully he is able to land there. He's a vested vet, so he doesn't have to clear waivers. That's a guy that they can and probably will pull on or call up from the practice squad when injuries hit the room. Then for the 5 defensive ends, you have George Karloftis, Mike Dana, Felix Anudike-Uzama, Malik Herring, and Cameron Thomas, who they just traded for. So they waived Truman Jones and Owen Carney. Then they did a couple other things with defensive ends that were on the 90. They put Charles Omenihu on the PUP list officially, so he is going to be out till probably November. Hopefully he can come back after the bye week and get that ACL all healed up and repaired, all that good stuff. And then defensive end BJ Thompson was placed on the non-football injury list. The hope is he's going to be ready to go at some point this season, but we'll see if the Chiefs think even if he's ready to go, he can take a spot from somebody else already on the roster. Then for linebackers, there's 5 of them. Leo Chanel, Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil, those are your starters. But then they have Jack Cochran and Cam Jones. Great picks. Jack Cochran's going to play a lot of special teams, but he's the backup Mike linebacker to Nick Bolton. And Cam Jones, he had a pretty good preseason as well. Then they waived Curtis Jacobs and Swayze Bozeman and released linebacker Cole Christensen. Hopefully at least a couple of these guys can end up on the practice squad. Then for cornerbacks, you had 6 of these bad boys: Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams, Nazeeh Johnson, Chris Roland Wallace, UDFA alert, and Nick Jones. And with Chris Roland Wallace, who some list as a safety, others list as a corner, even though he kind of is moved all around the secondary, a super kind of a Swiss Army knife guy that I was really impressed with over the course of preseason and training camp. So you've got him in, but that means they did waive the Chiefs' 6th round pick Kamal Hadden with the hopes of having him on the practice squad. So that's a bit of a mix-up there. Then they also waived Keith Taylor, Echo Boydo, UDFA Miles Battle, and Kelvin Joseph, who that's a bit of a surprise. I talked about that in yesterday's video. He was making a push for the roster during training camp, but the Chiefs opted to move on. Then you have 4 safeties: Justin Reed, Brian Cook, Chamari Connor, and Jaden Hicks. No real surprises here. Jaden Hicks was a great pick. I'm excited for him. Then they waived DJ Miller and Tyree Gillespie. Maybe one of them end up on the practice squad, and they released veteran Deon Bush, who did spend a ton of time on the practice squad last year. So ideally he's back there because he really knows the system and can be called up in case of emergency. Then for the specialists, there's no change. Long snapper James Winchester, punter Matt Ariza, who had an incredible preseason, and I'm very excited for him this season. And then the highest paid kicker in the NFL, Harrison Butker. And with that, there it is. You got 26 on offense, 24 on defense, and 3 specialists. You guys got to let me know your thoughts on the Chiefs' initial 53-man roster projection. Who left that you didn't want to see go, and who stayed that you did want to see go? Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?